win the Europa League. Even though the Europa League is Europe's second-tier club tournament, there have been a lot of exciting games this season. Only 4 teams are still in the game. Early favourites Arsenal, Barcelona and Manchester United have all been knocked out at different points. Arsenal was eliminated by Sporting CP in the round of 16, and Manchester United beat Barcelona in the playoffs for the knockout round before losing to Sevilla in the quarter-finals. Who will win the Europa League with the early favourites out of the race? Roma. Roma is the only team still in the Europa League that started the season in the tournament. The Europa Conference League reigning champions also made it to the group stage because of how well they did in their league. They were in the same group as Real Betis, Ludogorets and HJK. Ludogorets got things off to a bad start by beating Roma in the first game, but Roma came back to end second behind Real Betis. When Roma had to go through the knockout round playoffs, they came back from being down 1-0 to beat Red Bull Salzburg 2-1. Then, in the last 16, they got rid of Real Sociedad. Then, in the quarter-finals, Roma was losing to Feyenoord 2-1 on aggregate with just a few minutes left in the second leg. However, Paulo Dybala scored a goal to send the game into extra time, and Roma took charge. In the end, they won 4-1, keeping alive the hope of winning back-to-back European titles. Jose Mourinho must be thinking of winning the Europa Conference League, the Europa League, and the Champions League in successive seasons. Bayer Leverkusen. Group B of the Champions League was interesting, and its 4 teams were probably all about the same level, but only 2 teams, Porto and Club Brugge, could move on to the next round. Atletico Madrid finished last, and Bayer Leverkusen got the spot in the Europa League because of how they compared against Atletico Madrid. Bayer Leverkusen's first Europa League match was against Monaco. It was a nail-biter because the German team had to come back from a 3-2 loss in the first leg to win on penalties and move on to the last 16. In the round of 16, things were a lot easier. Bayer Leverkusen beat Ferencváros twice by scores of 2-0 to set up a quarter-final match with Union St. Gillois. After the first game, the tie was tied, but Leverkusen's skill showed, and they won the game 5-2 on aggregate. Juventus. Juventus came third in their group and dropped out of the Champions League. They only stayed out of last place because they scored more goals than Maccabi Haifa. For a while, it seemed like the best way for Juventus to get back into the Champions League was through the Europa League since they lost points in Serie A. However, that was suspended, so they are now back in the top 4. Still, it looks like Juventus is still in the Europa League to win it. After drawing 1-1 with Nantes in the first leg of their second round playoff, Juventus won their next 4 games without giving up a goal. In the process, they eliminated both Nantes and Freiburg. The 4th win to 0 was enough for Juventus to get past Sporting CP in the quarterfinals, even though the second leg ended in a 1-1 tie. Sevilla. Now to our favourite, maybe for you too. Everyone knows this is Sevilla's tournament, so when they start the season in the Champions League, some teams breathe a sigh of relief because they think it might be a little easier for them to win the title. But Sevilla finished third in their group, behind Manchester City and Borussia Dortmund, and had to go back to the Europa League. Sevilla was matched against Dutch team PSV Eindhoven in the knockout round playoffs. They beat PSV Eindhoven 3-2 on aggregate thanks to an easy 3-0 win in the first game. In the round of 16, they beat Fenerbahce 2-1 on aggregate after winning the first game 1-0, but the quarter-final was a completely different story. At half-time of the first leg against Man United, Sevilla was down 2-0 and it didn't look good. However, they came back to tie the game at 2-2 and then beat Man United in the second leg to win the tie 5-2. On the other hand, United didn't have much of an attack without Bruno Fernandes, who was banned, or Marcus Rashford, who was on the bench with a groin injury. Anthony Martial started up front against the team where he played on loan for part of last season, but he got injured early in the second half and had to leave the game. Rashford, who has scored the most goals for United this season, came on at half-time to replace the ineffective Jadon Sancho. However, his team was already down by 2 goals before he even touched the ball. Ivan Rakitic's corner kick hit Bade, went over De Gea and hit the crossbar before going in. It was a terrible night all around for United. Casemiro was unusually bad with the ball, and the injuries that kept Lisandro Martinez and Rafael Varane out of the defense left huge holes. But the worst came at the end. United was trying to win the game at the end, so De Gea ran out of his goal to try to clear a long ball, but he missed his half volley and left the goal open for En-Nesyri to score. Surely a bad day for United. Sevilla has now progressed in all 7 Europa League quarter-finals they have played, and they've gone on to win the cup when they reached this stage in the past. They sure can do that again. Who's your own favourite to win the Europa League? Let's hear your thoughts in the comments section. If you like this video and want to see more like it, make sure you like and subscribe to our channel.